Good evening and welcome to Food for Thought Radio. I'm your host, Gary Glendale, and with me in the studio is producer Paul, and this is the Farmers and Finance segment. So how are we doing today, producer Paul?
We're not doing too bad, as I was just saying to you there, pre-show. I've got a stomach full of chili con carne, which was quite nice. I didn't eat too much. It's a speciality around here because it's lazy man's food. I can make absolutely tons of it, which I did on Saturday, and then it keeps the house ticking over for about 3 days. I put about 1.5 kilos of meat in there, so it's huge. It's in a big slow cooker, and it means on nights like tonight, when I look at my watch and go, bloody hell, we're doing a show in 15 minutes, I can scoff at fast speed. So, no, I'm doing pretty good, really. And you? How are you doing?
I'm very good. So I'm just wondering, have you noticed the price of your chili con carne going up over these last few months?
I have, yeah. There's much fury and anger about that. Yeah, minced beef is going down in all its contents and quality.
Yeah,
it sort of melts away to nothing. And the thing is, though, you've got to eat. So most of my budget now, or the percentage of money that I spend that goes on food, is going up out the entire budget, and it has to.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm trying to find out how to not eat, Gary. This would be really useful, but I've not found a way around it yet. You know, what do they call them? Those breatharians or something. You just absorb all. That's what I need to be. Absorb the energy of the universe through my pineal or at my sphincter or however it gets in there. And I'm going, yeah, because it would save. I always remember my mum, banging on. She used to go, wouldn't it be great if we didn't have to eat? She'd say, I wouldn't have to cook, and there's all this bloody washing up afterwards. It would be great to not do it for a bit. And it's true. It's a big deal eating. It's huge.
Well, you can reduce your portion sizes and take your body into a state of is it osmosis, where it starts to repair itself rather than the cells regenerating. But I mean, it's just if you can, it just means being in a state of fasting. And eventually you just get exhausted from fasting. And you know what? I just need some food. A nice big juicy steak and peppercorn sauce with chips and some salad on the side. You cannot go wrong. And your body would be calling out, for the red meat. There's lots of people I know that have actually done the carnivore diet and think that they have cured all of their ailments literally from the carnivore diet itself. I know that there are different opinions on that, but there's certainly something to be said when the authorities try and ban you from eating red meat, in the same way that they try to encourage you to drink 5 to 8 cups of water a day after they've added fluoride to it. All that kind of stuff. So basically, you want to do the opposite of what they're suggesting. And when they're telling you not to eat red meat, what you really need to be doing is probably looking at why they're saying that and actually eating more red meat, I would suggest.
Yes, I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
I think you're probably right. Yeah. There's always talk about steaks around here and moving to South America, where I know all these boring facts about the amount of beef down there. Like Argentina's got 38 million people, but 57 million head of cattle. So that's not bad.
It's not bad at all.
Brazil, though, I don't know what the population of Brazil is. It's considerably bigger. However, they've got 238 million head of cattle in Brazil.
Oh, wow.
Think about that.
Wow.
Yeah. 250 million cows.
Oh, my goodness.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's a lot, isn't it?
And so now we know that actually whereas Ronald Reagan initially said that it's cows farting that was changing the environment, we now know from data that cows actually improve the environment with all their methane and CO2 production. So again, it was the complete opposite of what the mainstream narrative was saying that actually turned out to be the truth. Having more cattle is a net positive because you don't need to ship in CO2 to get more return on your veg and stuff like that you're actually growing. So it's a net positive and all that. But talking about net positives and figures and words and things like that, I wanted to kick off today's show by just talking about knowing the law and also knowing about trusts, private trusts, where you basically put your belongings in, so therefore it doesn't belong to you anymore. And the reason I wanted to talk about that is because knowing the law and having trusts, law is just simply words on paper, as is trusts. Trust is just words on paper. What you really need to do and to know is how to manage those words on paper. Like, the law is no good if you've got no way of backing it up. If you have no political will, if you have no economic power, if you don't have any military might or force behind it, words mean nothing. You can say to somebody, you can't do that, that's against the law. And then a thief or a criminal will just turn around and go, oh yeah, who's going to stop me? And you're like, yeah, well, good question. Can't really do that. And it's the same with a trust. Unless you know how to manage that trust, unless you know what to say when Big Brother makes his advantage, or takes advantage and tries to take them off you, unless you know the words to say to reiterate, to bat them away, they're just simply words on a page. So for those who don't know about this, what you need is you initially have a private trust, but then what you need is effectively, I can't remember the name now, like the equivalent to a not a sub trust, but a trust outside of the private trust that proves the trust exists. So a hybrid trust. So you have a hybrid trust to prove that your private trust exists, and in the hybrid trust is the your non-disclosure agreements and things like that. So Big Brother might say then, okay, well, you've proved that the trust exists, we need to see it. So then you say, okay, right, well, I can't disclose what's in it due to my non-disclosure agreements, and they're still in force. And there is a non-disclosure fee. So if you do want to view the details of the trust, then the disclosure fee is £33 million. Or, maybe 10 times the value of the assets in the trust. How would you like to proceed? Because you always have to give them a remedy. You can't just say no. They will say, right, well, you've blocked us, blah, blah, blah. Well, you say, well, I didn't actually block you. I gave you the opportunity to proceed. It's just going to cost you £33 million. How would you like to do it? So there's all of the, and that's just literally the tip of the iceberg on what a trust is. It's not the words on the paper that's valuable. It's having people who know how to manage that trust that's the value.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, as Klaus Schwab said, you will own nothing and be happy. Well, you need to have all of your items in a trust so that they cannot use those items of leverage against you, because this is what they do. They encourage ownership, and again, in the future, that needs to be converted to owner rights, because anything that's got the word ship in it is maritime. So we need to have owner rights, but the owner rights need to be in the possession of a trust that operates in your benefit. So you can be the beneficiary of that trust, but the trust is actually owned and managed by the trustees in effectively what is an unincorporated corporation. So it operates in exactly the same way as a corporation does, but it's not actually incorporated, and everything it does is just simply private. It's not causing any harm, injury, or loss to anybody else. Everything is just simply done in the private for the benefit of the beneficiary. And therefore, you do not own any of those items or assets that are in the trust, and therefore they're nothing to do with you, and therefore they can't be leveraged against you. Because anything that's got your name in it, they're like, oh, right, well, we've got this individual here. They've got a birth certificate. Oh, look at this. They've got a phone number. They've got an email address. And they've got a vehicle registered in their name. Oh, right, well, we've just sent them out a fine, even though there's no fine or forfeitures without due process and conviction by a jury of peers. But because we've decided that they owe us this, we're just going to breach the peace and send them an invitation to treat. And if they don't respond, well, then we're going to find where they've parked their car because they've registered it with the local car park who got their number plate. And even though they've breached GDPR, we're just simply go in there and take it because that's what we do because we're mafia. So you need the economic power to, first of all, purchase resources, not put them in your name, but then to actually have the law and have the political will to back up that. But what backs up political will is economic power. Economic power is what resides with absolutely everything. There is nothing that can be done if you don't have any economic power. You might have sort of like, for example, if you're an elder in a community, you might have respect from the community, but respect is worth nothing if you're just simply going to be a conquered people. And the way you prevent yourself from being conquered is by building up defenses through resources. And then, having people involved with you saying, actually, yeah, you are correct. We do agree with you. We are going to also operate these resources to defend ourselves in joint venture with yourselves to make sure that we retain what we've got and that things don't get taken off us. And the reason we need, truth and open and transparency and everybody to obey the law is because it doesn't matter how wealthy you are. If you are living in a lawless society, all of your resources will be taken off you. And your resources are useless if you do not have access to them. And therefore, you need to protect those access to them. And what you do is you protect it with the law. And then you have those the meant to be the police and the lawyers that are meant to back up your claim of entitlement. Say, no, this land is mine, that land is yours. And that prevents any disputes from arising. That prevents any controversies. That means that people can live in peace and harmony when things have been defined. Whereas if there's not defined and there's just simply a group of people who have managed to manufacture an unlimited economic power for themselves, they will eventually take that off you. But initially what they'll do is they will deceive you into taking it off you through the likes of taxation and inflation and theft and asset stripping, because that's what they use fiat currency for. Because fiat currency is not money. And that's the whole point of this show, that people and hopefully farmers who are listening to this, what they've done, and again, this all starts from, the creature from Jekyll Island. And just to give you an example of how murderous this organization is, obviously, in 1912, they sunk what people thought was the Titanic, but it was actually an insurance job that they switched it for the Olympic in order to get rid of the three main objectors to a central bank, which was Benjamin Guggenheim, Isidor Straus, and Jacob Astor. And the moment they got rid of those three main powerful objectors, they then went ahead and pushed through the Federal Reserve Act the following year in 1913. And then when you've given yourself an unlimited amount of economic power so you can print currency from nothing, well, the most profitable business for you to be in is a business with the products with the largest profit margins, which are weapons. So it's no coincidence that the World War I started the following year, the moment they created the central bank. And then a war started. They owned the weapons manufacturing companies, and they made huge amounts of profits from those years. But they didn't just do that. They were stealing all the gold from Russia. And that mainly happened during the Bolshevik Revolution, when the Bolsheviks slaughtered 60 million Christians. 60 million. And do not think that they weren't part of this whole conspiracy, because the whole point of stealing all the gold from Russia and then stealing all the gold from Europe and Japan in the Second World War to then bring about the Bretton Woods Agreement. They are absolutely hell-bent on achieving world domination. And they know that the only way they can achieve that is with money. Like Henry Kissinger said, who controls money controls the world. Which leads us back to, well, what is money? And why were they doing all this to steal money? Well, money happens to be a medium of exchange with value. So if you can economically incentivize or motivate somebody to perform or act in a way that you desire, you need money to do that. I will give you money if you do this. Therefore, people have an economic incentive to do that. And this is how they're bribing people to break the law currently, to break the Constitution. They're saying, oh, well, we now own all the banks. We own all the politicians. We own the police. Therefore, if you do this for us, and here's your remuneration, we will make sure that there is no legal recourse back on you. We will protect you. We will control all the media, as Rockefeller said. They will control the narrative. But it all comes down to their control over the financial system. And having control over the financial system means you can often switch money for currency, which is fraud. And people at the moment think that they've got money in the bank when they have no money in the bank. They have a ledger of bits of plastic, which they call promissory notes. And a promise is not a contract. A promise, therefore, cannot be enforced. A promise, therefore, has no value, which means you can't securitize a promise, meaning you can't turn it into a financial instrument, such as one that can be used as a medium of exchange, because it has no value. It doesn't secure your entitlement to anything of value whatsoever. Nothing. So what we really need is to somehow make money from as little as possible. And if you can make something from as little as possible, obviously the profits are huge, but if that can be used as a medium of exchange, the lighter and the less of this, the less mass this medium of exchange has, the more suitable it's going to be. And you can probably tell that this is leading on to digital money. If you can commoditize bits of light, if you can make data valuable because you need that record to maintain a permanent ledger, there's value in that. A digital, so what you need is an immutable digital ledger that doesn't have any central point of authority or control, that is therefore economically incentivized by economic competition. So therefore there needs to be a digital asset. Well, and it only has an asset because having a bit of data, which is the only way to access this network. And if that data is fixed in supply, that data has value, because people will always want to access that digital ledger because their records can remain private and they cannot be deleted. That is extremely valuable. So you can use it for tracking supply chains. You can use it for tracking the outcome in court cases. You can use it to hold politicians accountable. All of this stuff, because everything can be put on the ledger. So I would hypothesize that is the main way that we get out of this. What say you, Mr. Producer Paul?
Yeah, all of those things. It was interesting. Just winding back a few minutes to the trust situation. We went along and did a training, as it were, with a couple of people that I know here locally who are doing exactly that sort of thing with private trusts. And the whole little action that you detailed of, it's a private trust. You want to know what's in it? I think it's £2 million to find out. So you're absolutely right. I mean, I think, that like the challenges of communicating these details BSV and the whole of the blockchain world are considerable. And they're they're equal to, if not greater than that, when it comes to this whole idea of trust, because you're dealing with concepts, sort of thought forms to start off with, that you can't really nail down. It's like nailing jelly to start off with. It's funny, you can't get anything sort of solid in your head. That's my experience anyway. And I think, however, the two are completely interlinked. They're absolutely interlinked. I mean, most of their language with regards to, obviously Mr. Schwab says, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Well, that's not bad, because I own nothing right now and I'm quite miserable about certain things. I'm not really, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Well, none of us really own things if they can be. I mean, it's all a matter of people looking at what security in real sense you can provide for your life. And I think the main issue is that because they are able to basically barge in, you are permanently being disrupted. They disrupt the ebb and flow of life, do they not? And I think, most people don't make plans because every time you make one, they rock up and say that's going to cost you some money. There's a tax on that.
Yeah.
So it's very, very difficult to sort of, these people, these peasants, they don't have any dreams. Yeah, they do. They've just been so squashed through the centuries that people have almost like lost the capacity for it. It becomes sort of delusional in their mind, understandably. I can't possibly get out of this. It's just so boring. I hate it. I'm just going to work and do all that kind of stuff. And, it's not a bad option simply because it's probably the only option that most people have. But even that option of a nice, jolly good career, that's quickly disappearing down the sinkhole as well. So the whole thing, it seems to me, both the trusts and their control of finance through fiat currencies is literally about controlling the world. There's nothing new. It's not a rocket scientist statement, but that's what it is. It's not so much that they get wealthier. It's that their number one goal is to make sure that you don't, because you'll become more problematical to govern.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
do you because the what I'm concerned for at the moment is people's lack of self-confidence and lack of their own ability. I've heard so many people just say, "Oh, it's too complicated for me. I can't manage this. I won't be able to do it." They're sort of like
Yep.
self-defeatist, and I think a lot of these farmers as well, they would view themselves. They'd be like, "Look, I'm just a farmer. I just want
Yep.
to plow my fields, plant my crops, look after my cattle and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to be involved in all of this because I'm going to be causing confrontations." But unfortunately, the situation that we are in is exactly what this lot are going to do, and they are prepared for it. However, they are doing everything through the technological advances that they have on everybody, recording everything about everyone so that they have leverage. They know where you've been, the name of your dog, where you've been on a holiday, who you might be having an affair with, your financial records, the state of your business because you have to file accounts and all this kind of stuff. They know everything, so therefore they know where all the trigger points are. They're just like, well, if we just raise interest rates by around 2.5%, that means that all of these people that have like taken these loans out, they're all going to go bust. And this is exactly what they did during the financial crisis in 2008. When, obviously Bill Clinton added deregulation to the market, signing the Commodities Futures Modernization Act in 2000, which they knew was going to be covered up by the acts of 9/11 the following year in 2001. And then deregulation leads to, financial bubbles because nobody's regulating what's going on. And then you can introduce bullshit products like subprime mortgages. I mean, when you actually look back and you think what a subprime mortgage is, you're like, oh my God. How the hell did they get away with that? Self-certification mortgages, like as if, it was.
Well,
all
I think, Gary, they get away with a lot of this stuff due to kind of behavioural patterns which are intrinsic to us, given the circumstances in which we've grown up. And just going back to the point you mentioned earlier about their control of the spondulics, I love that word, the money, well, the currency right?
Yeah.
Their control of that means that they can get good people to behave badly.
Yep.
That's the first point. Because, I do liken it. The analogy is almost perfect, really. We have been brought to a condition of being dependent upon the supply of fiat currency. And it's just like a drug. It's like a drug addict.
Yeah.
You're going to need whatever £1,100 gets you this year, you're probably going to need £1,200 to get the same hit next year.
Yeah.
This is by design. Prices never go down because of the fact that they're always massaging the back end of the whole thing to make sure that they are the ones in charge and leading the way. In other words, it's their story, and they are motivated because they know what they're up to. Now, many of our people are not motivated because they haven't got that as yet. They haven't got it yet, but many are getting it. They haven't got that vision of building something. And although... You see, I just think as a people, we're not very good at defense. I know we have to defend our interests, right? But it doesn't set the fire going. But if you say to people, look, we're going to build this thing. What is it? It's this. These are the benefits to you. We can't do that. The government are in charge. No. We're going to take them on all. Not directly, indirectly. Our job is to our job is to asphyxiate them. They breathe you. We are their oxygen supply, and our attention in particular is what they feed off. That's why it's all controlled through the media. I mean, if everybody turned, and not that they're going there, but imagine turning TVs off for a week and started to read a bit of these things, or saw some zippy little nippy videos that get the point across in a cheery and positive and bright fashion. I know it sounds completely wet, but all the serious stuff has got very little traction. People do not respond to facts. They just don't. I mean, some of us do, but you have to. Those of us that look at facts, you're actually looking at facts because you've already got some kind of a vision in your head about a feeling, a very strong feeling that something is wrong here, and you want to know A, why it's wrong, and B, that's not enough. I mean, just being an analyst of the current situation is the first step, but it's less than useless, because then you become a bore down the pub. The next thing, you've got to then take it, the responsibility then falls on the researchers to transform themselves from researchers into action men. We've got to do something with it. We've absolutely got to do something with it. And that doingness, part of it, I think, in the early stages, is communicating to our kith and kin in a way that they can get. And we've still not fully got all that kind of stuff. I mean, I know you've researched a lot. I've researched tons. I've loved the process of researching. But I hit a point, and I bet many people do, I go, do I really need to know any more about this? Well, I mean, if I go and put some more time into it, I'll just get the current state of it. But the actual underlying model has been present for thousands of years. Once you've got the principles of it, you go, I can see where we're weak. Then you find examples throughout our history where people have fought back against that by building something nearly always in a local sense. And it's worked for a short period of time, and then it comes to grief and ruin because the bad guys rock up and go, we can't have you getting off of our drug called fiat currency. We can't have that. You're going to set a bad example. All of our customers who we supply as the money drug dealers in the world, we'll lose them. We can't have that. They'll start doing their own things. And it's labyrinthine in terms of all the effects and knock-on effects from it. But I do think we're in a process of you couldn't ask someone to go cold turkey on the current fiat system. Well, you could, but I don't think your chances of effectiveness are that high. There'll be a few exceptions that prove the rule, but the vast majority won't even listen to your sentences. It's that difficult for people to take the jump from where they are. They're like on a little boat and you're going, we're going to build a Titanic. I'm just going back to that. We're not really. We're going to build this big thing. I don't know what you're talking about, mate. I've just got a rowing boat. Sorry, I'm off fishing. It's that kind of thing. It's just too big a jump. So finding these intermediary steps is vital. I mean, they could speed up. I hope and think that they will, actually. But it's to say, look, if your life is 100% consumed by the fiat currency system right now, what we want to do is that within about a year, we want to get down to about 90%. And you've got to run this other thing parallel to that. You've got, and so we want, all we want is we want the bar to keep switching more in our favor. It eats out the amount of time people spend in the fiat system, and it puts them over into the private money system, the peasants' private money system, which is where they're going to have naturally more protection from the predator class.
Yeah, and it's economically positive. And
it's economically positive, yeah, and in the process of doing that, the more the complications of it when we're describing it like in a textbook, which we have to, you've got to start somewhere, right? But they will disappear. It'll become habit. It's a bit like if you're going to learn to ride a bike, I could give you a technical manual. Say, well, it's all to do with your center of gravity. We could have a big thing, right? You go, yeah, Dad, I'm 5. You don't do that, do you? You go, get on the bike and go. Well, I'm going to fall off. Yeah, don't worry, you'll learn. You pick it up. I'll be there. I'll catch you first few times. And after a few days, most people get it, right? They just get it. And then you don't sit around and talk about why people can balance on bicycles. Although, because I read something the other day where scientists have still not fully worked it out. Great, that's a good use of your time. Crack on with that. It's just ridiculous, right? It's these things that are staring people in the face. So we need, this is my feeling anyway, and I think there's room for everybody's approach. I don't know which one's really going to work, but if people have got different ones, the thing to do is to act on them and try it out. It's like field testing. I've found that if I talk about this, and this, I retain much. I'm getting more people building. I'm getting a crowd building up that are more interested. So I do think we are a positive-oriented people, culturally. We like to build things. We like to build beautiful things. We like things to work well. And everybody knows that we're surrounded now by an ever-growing battalion of hideous buildings. Things are not working well. They're working worse with every passing day. People can't quite put their finger on the pulse, but the commonality across the whole field is the banking system.
Yes.
It's the number one thing. And as we've said here before, until that is subdued, we're not solving anything. Not permanently, not maybe for 5 or 10, 15 years, but they'll find a way around. Oh, they've written some more regulations and now I can't put this beautiful building up with a cupola and a dome because they say it distresses people. They'll just make crap up all the time.
Yep.
They will, because the warfare is on us as a race. That's that people. And then you go, oh, it can't be like that. It is like that. Just look at history. See what's going on. This is nothing new. It's ancient, and that currency thing is their number one weapon, without a doubt, because it's like a virus that's crept into everything. It's so confusing on purpose. It's so dry. It's communicated in such a dull way. Hello, boys and girls, we're going to be studying banking now. People just couldn't get out of the room fast enough, could they? You know what I mean? It just carries with it a wave of absolute tedium, disinterest, or maybe emotional distress, because most people, when you talk to them about the amount of numbers that are in their bank account, there's never enough, right? You're reminding them of a sense of lack. They go, I haven't got enough. I've got all these bills and all this kind of stuff. So that's the hurdle. It's almost like it's the starting point's the most important bit, just to find a mechanism to set more and more people on fire. That said, it's happening. It is happening. And I think we'll find simpler ways to actually get into this so that we can make, like the presentation on the back of a fag packet. Come here, mate. I'll show you this. Sit down. Look at that. See that? See that? All right. So what you need to start doing is you need to hang out with me a bit more. Right? And we're going to start doing that. We're going to have a little market next week, and everybody's buying and selling goods and services in BSV. Are they? Yep. How many people there? 3. That's not many. You've got to start somewhere. Got to start somewhere. But I think if we get the vision... Yep. Absolutely. And it's a fire. It's a brush fire. And this is what they do everything to stop. That's why they put a lot of effort into knocking out little groups whilst they're little, because it's the most time and energy effective way that they've got to do it. Once it gets to a certain size, they've got major set of problems. And we've got this to become a major problem to them. It's not a problem to us. It's a great asset to us. It's a great benefit to us. And I think the people that get involved with it will move internally as well as intellectually on the whole thing. So I've got great faith in the common man if he's put in and I include myself in that, if we're put in the right circumstances. But you put people in bad circumstances, they behave badly from a survival point of view. And that's what we've got all around us, because they control the currency supply. And it's not on. Yeah. By the and everybody, I was on the show yesterday, Gary, with every couple of weeks. I'm on the last hour of Ria Bowe's Sunday show, which I keep bigging up. Yeah. It was a bit of fun. Yeah, it was great. And I talked really a lot about BSV yesterday, about really pretty much on this theme here. And Ria's always sort of prods me with a few questions, sort of like negative things, almost like as part of the sort of game of talking about it. And I don't mind. I think it's really effective, actually. We should do that. And her point really was, most people are just not going to get it. And I said, they're not going to get it yet. You throw that in. Yeah. Not yet, but more and more will, and it just requires will to do it, and we're at our best when we're building stuff. So like I say, they've got a story. The bad guys have got a story and a goal. That's why they're getting out of bed every day and going crazy and doing this stuff. They get a buzz from it. We've got to acquire a similar sort of buzz, which is the counter-revolutionary force. I hate crap like that, but I just thought I'd use it. That's what we've got to do. So it's a buzz, and it's literally an emotional, spiritual, and intellectual movement. We understand the problem and the pragmatics. It's wrecking our ability to trade honorably and in the private with one another. So what we're going to do is we can't just leave our drug dealer. He'll send his heavy guys around. He's going to whack us. I don't want that. So over there, quietly, we're just going to keep building it up. And that's what we've got to do.
Yeah, and I like that word that you just used there, sort of counter, what did you call it? Counter-revolutionary?
Counter-revolutionaries, yeah. Counter-revolutionaries. That's an old bit of jargon, isn't it? But that's really what we are. Well, also we're seeking to redress this permanent imbalance that's in our lives. The other thing, most people are not conscious of it. Why would they be? They've devoted a great deal of attention to building a career, and the ones that have been successful in this game, they will be the last ones to know about it, I suspect. Although some of them are bright enough to understand that it's not. But the peasants know it emotionally. They just don't know it in terms of words, going back to your early points right at the beginning of the show. How do I describe this problem? That's a good question. How do you? What are its results? What are its effects? How do we sort this out? Why is that feeling of buoyancy about life gone out of the nation? Very good question. Why is it gone? Well, there's all sorts of things, but this is part of it.
Well, see, this is where I'm trying to describe economic incentive. So economic incentive is almost like it's an economic benefit. When someone can see that they might receive an economic benefit for something, they then become interested in it because they're just like, hold on a minute, this is going to benefit me. How is this going to benefit me? It sounds really good, but I'm interested because I'm going to receive an economic benefit. I think that the main reason so many people are turned away from banking and finance is because they can't see an economic benefit for themselves. And that's because that's because there isn't one. Because they're not the ones who are committing the fraud. Those fraudsters are absolutely pissing themselves and rubbing their hands with glee because they know what they're doing. They're just like, we're printing this shit from absolutely nothing, and these stupid idiots haven't got a clue, which means I can get and do whatever I want. This is great. But that's just because they're aware of the deception, and they're just like, well, they're never going to get this because they're so stupid and they don't know the difference between securities and commodities, which is why I think a lot of people were turned off in economics, like I was, even though I was kind of interested. It gave me a headache because I didn't get it. I was like, what is it I'm not getting here? Because I've got my economics professor or tutor standing in front of me telling me about treasury bills, and I don't get it. Like, what? I must be stupid. Everybody else seems to be nodding away and go, yeah. That's what a treasury bill is. Right, okay, well, why am I not getting this? And how, and so the bank makes a treasury bill. Like, okay, what, from what? What authority does a treasury bill have? What is it? If somebody had said to me, a treasury bill is a security that the bank prints from nothing and then flogs to the government, and the government says, oh, thank you, we're now in debt to you because you printed this shit from nothing, and we've got to somehow pay it back to you. But the way we'll pay it back is we'll raise funds from the public. It's because we can't use the treasury bills in the economy because they're just simply treasury bills. They're our private ledger with the bank that made their ledger up from nothing. So we will sell bonds, which are even more securities to the public, and then the public will give us the currency that's used in the economy, and we will then use that currency for infrastructure projects, and we will pay the public back in currency by collecting taxes that are also paid in currency. And now we have the central bank creating treasury bills and currency. But the treasury bills go to the government, the currency goes to the public, and we just do a little bit of a swapsy-roo with them. That's all it is. And then I'd be like, holy shit, this is a fantastic scam. Then I would be interested in it because I got it. I see what's going on here. This is a fantastic fraud, you utter scoundrels. And so with Bitcoin, when people suddenly say, oh, hold on a minute, right, so the supply is fixed and this thing actually has utility, so I'm going to buy it to use it, but at the same time it's going up in value, well, I better buy more then, because the more I have now, the better value for money it's going to be in the future, as more and more people start to realize what I'm using it for and start benefiting from it in the same way that I am. Well, they're going to be all over this. They're literally going to be, scoffing it like as much coffee as they can. In fact, I'll tell you what I described it as. I said Bitcoin is like cocaine for corporations. That's what I described it as, because a corporation, the only obligation a corporation has is to its shareholders to make profits so you can pay them dividends. And the only way you can do that is by saving money and making money. And that is it. And Bitcoin does both. It's the only thing. It saves corporations millions, if not billions of dollars on data security and data efficiencies and supply chain management. And at the same time, it's fixed in supply and going up in value. How much of that stuff would you want if you were a corporation? You would want as much as you could get. You would be all over it. And that's why I said it's like corporate. I actually described it as corporate cocaine. Because that's literally what it is. It's like corporate jet fuel. And this is why the cabal have literally gone to throwing the kitchen sink at this, deceiving people by creating this shitcoin market and stealing the ticker symbol and putting it onto their own centrally controlled protocol that doesn't commoditize data in any way. But when people see this, it's going to go nuts. But what we need is for the farmers and all the truthers out there who know what's going on to be in on this before that happens. It's absolutely essential. And the only way I can do that is with knowledge and by coming on shows like this, which you graciously invited me on to be a host on, which is fantastic.
Yep.
So how have you found your response when you've been explaining this to people?
Well, it's getting better. I'm sort of finding my own sentences, Gary, because I'm going to do that. I'm the sort of guy that will do that. And I'm always looking to try and find this way to describe it. But just tapping into this thing about, as you were talking, I was just thinking about where we're at with this. A big where. I don't know who I mean by we, but those of us that are paying attention, that's who I mean. And so we've got a situation where right now, given that this thing goes, I'm of the conviction that it must go. I want it to go, not because though it will not be a bad side effect, not because I'm going to end up with piles of so-called purchasing power, although I would prefer people like us to have it rather than other people that have currently got it. Right? That's the first thing. I just want to deny them it. That's as much a goal, right? Because when it falls into the wrong hands, things get bad. They get messy, and there are bad hands out there. But given that this would be a period that will have effectively a finite time span, I don't know how long it will last. In other words, the transition process. Let's call it. I'm going to call it that, right? So we're going to move away. The goal is we move away. We wean ourselves off of a fiat currency life, and we move on to the replacement, which is true, which does not require a bigger hit every year because it's actually backed with substance and no one can control and inflate the supply. This is really important, right? So given that we can do that, this period's pretty important. And what we've got possibly as a pitch right now is the monetary acquisition gene inside people. You could play on that. I tend not to. I know that this is the number one driver, right? It's absolutely, and it's not surprising. It's not me making some moral judgment. It's not surprising that people are like that, given how they live at the moment. Everybody wants to win the lottery, right? Everybody wants to just have piles of money. Okay, we got that. Now, but this is a pitch that if the thing's successful, will not be possible in X years' time, because it won't be about actually profiting at the growth of this thing. This will go through a growth period or a transition period, whatever you want to call it, and that will come to a close. What will we end up with? Well, the aim is, and the indicators are, that you would end up with a much more stable commercial space, and you would end up with people setting up businesses that are not at the beck and call of changes in such things as interest rates and all the other junk that they have to cope with. I mean, people can't think too creatively about their business because I don't know how much time they spend on admin and all this other stuff, right? But it's too much. Because nearly all the administration is they're getting us to police ourselves to pay them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and it's not surprising because they've had an awful long time to keep developing the sophistication of the scam. And because everybody has bought into the idea that government somehow is actually seeking to do a good job, it's just that it's very challenging right now. And don't get that the government is literally a plaything. They're in a good cop, bad cop type of situation with the cartel. They're a very important role for the cartel because they're the actors, the great distractathon, this marathon distraction that goes on and on. That's what their role is, and it's very important for the whole scamming of the audience. It's a bit like, those guys down on Oxford Street with the 3 Ps under the shells and everything. Somebody's distracting people so they can't spot where it is. It's what magicians do. Right? Oh, that's amazing. Well, it's because you didn't see him pass that card into his back pocket. Of course, they have and that's for entertainment purposes. But the principle's still the same. Your attention is being hijacked onto the wrong thing. And they say that we live in the attention economy, and we always have. Actually, there's a great quote from, I think it's Plato, the guy that used to throw the plates around. I'm sure that's why they called him Plato. I love this one. It's one of my favorite ones. He said, "Those who tell the stories rule society." Now, so the goal, this is true, right? Those who tell the stories, because these are stories that people are consuming every day. Our job, part of our job, is that this story, and a few others as well, like Truss and others, they're the ones that need to be told with great vigor and fire and warmth and connectivity with the audience so that people go, "Ooh, I think I want a bit of this." Good. That was the whole idea. We've got to start telling our own story. I mean, if you look at it, all of the alternative media, the bulk of it, is now a sort of it's just another type of echo chamber. People are still not doing anything. This is something that everybody can do. That's an absolute massively important thing. What, you mean I just buy one of these for 14 quid? Yeah, now you've done something. Well, it's not much. Exactly. Yeah, but you'd never done anything before that. Now you've done something. Now you've got a £14 stake or whatever it is in your future. Yeah, you don't even have to buy one if you don't want to buy one. You buy half of one. It doesn't matter. It's the internal commitment that people make by making a decision like that to actually starting to take an increasing role in managing their own life. And this is the great, this is the other thing. Oh, well, if we give more power to government, they can sort everything out. How's that working out for us, everybody? Well, exactly. It's not good. Yeah. It's not good.
And also,
because they're not fit for it.
With Bitcoin, effectively, I wrote an article on it the other day, and I said it is effectively 21 million units of freedom stock.
Yep.
That's what it is. So you've got 21 million to be divided by all the world's population and all the world's financial markets. The sum total of all of it. So even if you've just got one, if you've got 1/21 millionth of a Bitcoin, that is absolutely massive. It's absolutely massive, which is why it's so important that the truthers and the farmers actually get one and understand what we're saying. I mean, I would love to know how many people effectively I've got in on this. I know I've got a lot. Many people I know are now telling me, yeah, I've got over 100. I've got over 100. I've got 400. I've got 500. I've got 1,000.
Yeah. I'm on the way. Yeah, really, I'm just going to do it. The other thing that's really going to help as well, just going back to the sort of simple side of the thing, drawing more people into the space, is an amplification of the situation that we have with the effing farmer. Where when he's got beef, I can buy it off him for beef SV, as I'm now calling it, right? Brilliant. BSV. Because if I go to the pub, I want to buy beer SV, which is great, right? It'll be beer SV when we go to the pub, and all that kind of stuff. The more of that happens, the stronger it gets. And I was thinking just about the technology of the transaction mechanism here with BSV, right? The speed of it, the absolutely infinitesimally low cost of making a transfer. I mean, you can't even feel it, right? It's not even a cost, really. It's just, okay, I've moved a bit of thing around. That seems all right. We'll do that. It doesn't matter what the amount is. It's the same fee, right? You've made a transaction. We don't really care about that kind of stuff. That's cool. That is such a foundational basis because one of the things that they've always done with alternative local currencies is they interfere with the transaction method. They can do it. If you're using sheets of paper that have got printing on, if it starts to get really big, they will go to a counterfeiter and they'll completely bugger up all your fantastically printed local currency notes. They'll just do it. Yeah. Then you're faced with a massive admin cost of actually having to check that. Then you need security on that, and the whole thing starts to go down the same hole. Again, you actually become a reflection of them. This, with the signatures, with its personalized, private but not anonymous structure, means that they can't come in and fart around with it. I would imagine that amongst the things that are making them brick it, that's got to be right up there in the top part of the list.
Absolutely.
Because that's the long-term strength of it. And that's really what we're interested in. There's the short-term wallop that's coming up at the moment that we all want to see. But it's after that. You go, we've transferred the whole world over to BSV. Now what? Now we can get on with our lives. Now you've got time and space, right?
Yeah, now we
to
can
build
hold
a house.
The politicians and the judiciary accountable. Now we
absolutely. I've got that clip, by the way. I've got that clip. Do you want me to play it?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Let's play this. Let's see, and then you can tell them about it afterwards.
There will come a time where the separation between the honest politician and the dishonest one will come down to whether or not they support the use of Bitcoin for government function. Because it does provide that audibility, and the anti-corruption tools that it can implement throughout government can make government become provably honest in a way that's never before been possible. And a provably honest government is something we've never seen. It would be a wonderful thing.
I would question whether or not it's possible, but anyway.
Well, with the cryptography, I would suggest that it is possible. Whether or
That
not
would imply, though, that people are always honest in the first place. So,
well, those can then prove it, right? And the ones that aren't can't. So that it may create that division between the people within government that become more electable because they can prove the degree to which they are honest versus those who are competing for their office.
I understand.
Do you?
Do you? This is it. I'm telling you, this is it.
Brilliant. Stop there just in the nick of time as well. You know when I first heard that, I think you're muted, mate. When I first heard that pitch, I wasn't actually awake, and I didn't actually understand what he was saying, because that was let me think. That was he actually said that in 2015, but I didn't really get into he said that in 2015, but I had no idea that was going on in 2015. I had no idea about the history. I was just kind of like looking at Bitcoin. Nobody knew anything about it. I found that clip later, but I really started getting involved in it in 2017, and particularly 2018 when I started looking back at the history. And even in 2017, 2018, I was still ignorant and unaware. I had suspicions. I was just like, hold on a minute. What if there is a nefarious entity in control of the central banking system? How much trouble would we be in? That's when I started thinking. And then obviously, COVID came along, and it was just like, whoa, what is going on here? There is something seriously wrong. Oh my God. I hope my worst fears aren't like coming to fruition. And they did, literally the worst of the worst case scenarios. And when I go back and listen to that clip now, I'm just like, oh my goodness me, he is absolutely... Because, I mean, think about this. When I first started looking at Bitcoin in 2015, had no idea what it was, what's mining, do you actually mine it? I mean, I had all the newbie questions because I was a newbie. I had no idea. Somebody's telling me mine it.
You're going to have to remind yourself of those because, like when you were on Thursday, just gone on my show, and I think I played that clip then, and it's worth playing it over and over because that's a whole pitch. That little thing he just said then is not a little thing. It's brief, but it ain't little. Obviously, the lady is questioning him is absolutely clueless as to what he's actually driving at.
Yeah.
She don't get that it's a situation like we don't have to trust them. The system will expose any fraudulent activity. It's not down to a human being. It's just it's a recording mechanism that's inviolable. Get it? I mean, and it's going to take time for people to get it. It really is. The implications they're huge. They're absolutely monstrous, monstrously positive
for us. Sounds like you're getting it though, which is great.
Yeah, because these are all the sorts of things that we didn't have all these tools. I do sound like an old fart. I'm sorry, I can't help it. I suppose I've become one, right? But it's just all of these things. We used to sit around and talk about this stuff 30 years ago. Loads and loads of I don't know. We're going to bloody deal with that. Let's just crack on and do something, right? And it all went tits up, but. All of those thoughts, and we're not the first group to have thoughts like this. If you track it back, you've got loads of bright people in our history have gone, hang on just a minute, I'll just have a look at this money thing. Bloody hell, this is crap. This is absolutely outrageously not right. This can't work. Of course, and it doesn't work. It actually doesn't work. We've got sort of like 1/100th of the life that we should be leading. Really.
Yeah.
That's my view. It's, but the one thing that we've got that's amazing is this challenge. This is a gift. This challenge is absolutely off the charts. It's wonderful. It's motivating. If you see it in that way, and instead of seeing it in a negative, you go, right, I'm being offered the chance to actually put my shoulder to the wheelstone with loads of other people and really get this thing going. Let's push. But there's only 5 of us, so what? Everything starts off small groups are it. Like we were talking about, little clusters of 3 people. That's the way to do this sort of stuff. It works because you can maintain it because you're going to have fun at times along the way with good companions. And good in this case, I guess, means similar orientation, shared context, understand what we're driving at. And someone goes, I'm really interested in this trust thing, and I'm really interested in actually coming up with things about this government thing and making them incapable of, because it won't happen overnight, will it? It'll be inexorable, like we were talking about on Thursday. I just see it as a process. You go, we want to accelerate this positive process. Yeah, great. So let's do that. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, it takes us back to Margaret Mead's quote, doesn't it?
Yes.
Never underestimate the power of a few committed individuals to change the world, for indeed it's the only thing that ever has.
Absolutely.
And if that small committed group of individuals have got the economic power, well, that could be massive. That could be massive. And the powers that should not be do not want this. They cannot even buy it. They can't use it because of the digital signatures. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's literally kryptonite to them.
It is.
I've used kryptonite on purpose, right? I could have used a different one, but there's an in-joke in that. But it's kryptonite to them. It makes them weak. And that's why hopefully they're in a state of ever escalating panic about this, because they've been putting us in one for centuries, and it's time. It's time for a bit of what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Great show, Gary. Really enjoyed it.
Indeed.
Wake up your mind, fill up your day. Oink, oink. Smart little vibes that brighten your way. You're listening to Food for Thought Radio. Hear FFTradio.com. Club Moo, oink.
My main interest in all this is to preserve our democratic institutions. I want to retain the right to vote, the right to speak freely, and the right to write. If we maintain these basic principles, our democracy is safe. No dictatorship can exist with suffrage, freedom of speech, and press.